All right. Can you talk, Ken?
Hello, hello, hello. Check one, two. Check one, two.
Great. I just wanted to make sure that because at the end of last stream, your audio like stopped working for some
Yeah,
reason. I don't know. That was weird, but cool. Well, we are back, and yeah, we're just gonna pick up kind of where we left off. We have 5 terminals shared. Ken, can you type in like terminal one? Maybe try like npm starting that shit.
I got you.
Cool. Oh wait, you got to go into the client directory. I'll
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do the API directory for the second terminal, and then
Okay.
and
I'm going into.
yeah, exactly. And then terminal three, I'm gonna run Redis server. Okay, and then terminal four, I'm gonna run our like Twilio web tunnel thing that we had to set up last time, so that like we could actually run or like yeah text our number and get the results on our local machine. So that would be like I think it's Twilio phone numbers update. Actually, I'm going to do phone numbers list to see like what numbers we have. Uh, I hope that works. There it is. Okay, took a minute, but and then I can grab this phone number and say phone numbers. Oops, I'll say Twilio phone numbers update with our phone number, and then the option SMS URL is what we need to point to our local host.
Now you shared 8,000 with me. Do we need to do
Oh,
the share of 4?
yeah, good call, good call. Oops, 4,000. There we go. Now we should be all good. Let's try opening up localhost 8000 in the web browser and confirm that it's working. Damn. Uh, our customer list. Let's trim that down. All right. Okay. So there's a few different things that we need to do next. And those like it kind of goes in two branches. One is like keeping track of two separate lists, like the people that are waiting and the people that we've served
Mm-hmm.
or that we're serving, like the people who are effectively like off the list. Um, and then there's also the other side of like we want to be able to message the users or like message customers back when it's their turn. And in order to do that, we got to keep track of their phone number in like whatever our data store solution is. So like when we add a customer to the list right now, we're just adding their name, but we actually need to add their name and their number. Um, so uh, and also we wanted to one of the things that we talked about in our meeting with Andrew was like um, also associating a barber with a person like when they transition from like waiting to served, we want to say like who's serving them. Um, so yeah, like basically, I think that like it kind of goes. We can go in one direction or the other. Like we can do the separate lists thing first, or we can do the or we can do like the more complex customer model. Um, yeah, I don't know. What's your gut like? What do you think is what sounds like a more I don't know Where would you want to go?
Um, why don't we start with just making the second list,
Sounds good. Yeah.
and then we can dive into the grittier parts.
Okay. Cool. So, yeah, like let's think about how we might want to. Was I committing this end file? Hold on. Maybe I was. Wow. That's pretty dumb of me. I'm gonna just add a. Well, first I'm gonna delete this. And then I gotta create a get ignore file that just ignores .env. There we go. Now I can
Beautiful.
safely create a .env file, and it hopefully won't be tracked by Git. Okay. Cool. All right. So like when we're thinking about how we want to like represent the two lists, I guess we could go about it in a couple of different ways. Like one way would actually just to be maintaining, like right now we have one list in Redis specified by this list name. So we could have like two lists, like a waiting list and a served list. That might be a good way to get started. Um, the other option would be kind of in line with the kind of like the more complex customer model. Just if we're keeping track of like the person's name, their phone number, the barber that is serving them, we can also keep track of like a am I have I been served yet Boolean, like it can be true or false, or we can even like use some logic like if the person if the customer is associated with a barber, that means they've been served. And so then in our front end, we're only ever dealing with one set of customers, and then we can render the customers differently, like whether they've been served or not. Like we can filter our array of customers on that like served logic.
Hmm.
Um, so like thinking about that, it might actually make sense to um, to do like the complex customer model first, and then and like because we can take advantage, we can basically kill two birds with one stone in a way, um, or like three birds with one stone, like the barber association, the like phone number customer association, and the served versus waiting.
I like that.
Cool.
Let's just write the rest of the app all into this next step.
Yeah. Next step, finish everything. Um,
Um, yeah, that sounds interesting to me.
okay, cool. Well, let's see. I'm just kind of thinking about how we want to do this. Like with Redis, we're currently using a list, which is just essentially an array of strings. Redis also supports this concept of hashes, and a hash is like a equivalent of like an object in JavaScript. It's a like an entity that contains key and value pairs, and then it's like yeah, we assign it to like a specific key. So like yeah, we that's how what we could do is use hashes and then make our list or make our list like an array of the hash IDs. And this is already sounding really complex because like representing an array of objects in Redis is it just happens to be like a complex thing, like not exactly the tool for like the best tool for that job. Um, yeah, so part of me is wondering if we should what am I trying to say? Part of me is wondering if we should consider using like a different data structure, like using for example like a table database where I'll show you an example of one. If you check out the stream window, we could
Yep.
have like this is like a database that I'm using for playback where I have a projects table and every project has an ID and it's got a name and like I can like peruse the data really easily like this and this represents like the array of objects model, just out of the box kind of. And there's tools in Node that make it really easy to interact with it too. So yeah, that might be a option for us. Yeah, one thing I want to do quickly just before we dive in is I want to look again at the Twilio docs about sending text to a number, like to a number on our call, because what we've done so far is set up this SMS route that like replies to a text when we get it.
Mhm.
And because we're doing that, there's not like we don't have to do a lot of extra authentication on our end. And I just want to see what that looks like if we want to send just a text to some number. So let's see. Sending messages. This is I'm sending you the link on Hangouts that I'm on. But yeah, it looks like we can send we can send messages. We need to have our account SID and our auth token available, but we can send messages using this client.messages .create method, and then just specify like some number.
So it come from our Twilio number, and then
Yeah,
you just have to find a way to extract their number and use it as a variable.
yeah, exactly. That extract their number part is a really key part.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can find about that. Like Twilio SMS. What would we call this? Like the request body. I want to look at that. Twilio's request to your application. What I want to do is like try to understand what the shape of the remember in the last time we were getting the content of the text using this rec.body.body
Mm-hmm.
property. So this rec.body, it looks like it's essentially this table that I linked to here, the request parameters. So there's this body, capital B body property. That's the text body. That's what we were using last time. And we have a from and a to. And I guess, yeah, in this case, from is probably like the customer's phone number. So we can access it from there. So that's really good.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to make a note in here. We'll say like save rec.body.from. Okay. Um, but yeah, what do you think about um, trying to use using like a SQL database or like one of the this is called a relational database instead of Redis. Redis was treating us really well, but I'm just thinking that this might be a better solution altogether. Just considering what we need, you know.
Yeah, if you think that would serve our interest better, then maybe it's best to switch over now than when we get too deep into it.
Yeah, cool.
Have to refactor for
I think that's smart. Yeah.
a lot more code.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we do this for the first part of our experience today? We can like just take our existing API and basically make it work with a Postgres database instead of Redis. That can be like our goal number one. And then um, and then once we have that, we can start filling in these other details like saving phone numbers and all that stuff. Or maybe we could just like accomplish that stuff along the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good.
Well, to get started, then I'm just going to create a new database. I'm using this app called Postico, which is really handy for dealing with Postgres databases. I'm going to create a new database called Sorrento, and then in here we'll create a new table. Um, and we'll call the table customers and add a few columns like customer name, which will be I guess this is the problem with Postico is they expect you to know what all these different types are. Mm, I'm just going to go over to an existing table that I've already made. So yeah, we want to use this character varying type. And interesting. I wonder if we should copy the kind of table layout as this. You're gonna have to excuse this is like super, I don't know, probably not very like that won't make a lot of sense. Um,
That's cool.
but yeah, let's see what we can do here. Let me just see if this works. If we save this, cool. So we have our name. We'll give it like a phone column, which will also be this character varying. So I'll kind of like mention these things as we go, but in SQL there's like this text type and like a varying character type. And a text type is just kind of like for very very large blobs of text. Like if you would store like the content of a blog post or a web page in there. Character varying is it's a column type that takes up far less space, and it's for like text strings that you know are going to be a lot shorter. In our case, we have like it gives you a maximum of 255 characters or 256 characters,
Okay.
and yeah, it's just better for keeping your database size manageable, I guess. So let's just save that for now, and um, yeah, we can then start interacting with this using. I'm going to use a program or like a JavaScript library called Connects at connectsjs.org. This is like a really handy, um, just like how we were using the Node Redis client to interact with Redis. It's helpful to have like a client to interact with a Postgres database as well. So to use this thing, as it mentions here, we're gonna want npm install connects, and then also one of the following like database drivers. So for our case, we're using Postgres. So I'm gonna install PG, which is like the Node Postgres library, I guess.
Cool.
All right, so we'll just go in the API directory, which is terminal tab 2. I can go npm install connects and PG. I think that's it, right? Yeah.
You're in Terminal 2 right now?
Yeah, can you see any of my stuff?
I can see Terminal 2 is the only one that's not working as of now for
Dang
me.
it. All right, let's try again.
2 and 3, sorry.
All right. I'm just going to quit that one. We'll keep okay, now we should have 2 terminals. And terminal 2 should be like just this Twilio running thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to create a couple more, or maybe just one more. And so now I'm in terminal 4. Actually,
Cool.
yeah, I'll do in terminal 3. We'll cd into API, and can you see this? Okay,
Yep.
npm install connects and PG. All right. Then I used connects in one of my other apps, so I'm gonna just go over there to see, or to try to jog my memory about how I did this connection. Okay. So we'll let that install. And basically what we want to do, what we can do just to start off is change our, when we get a socket connection, the first thing that we do is we send like an array of customers back. And so that's something that we can emulate with Postgres right away. We don't have to account for any of the functionality yet. We can just try to get the database connection running, and we're expecting to get an empty array anyway. So so we can probably manage that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So everything should be installed there, and we can go npm start again.
So sorry, still using our WebSocket?
We're still using WebSockets. That's going to be how we like send data between the client and the API. But the only thing that we're changing is like where that data is stored. Currently, it's in Redis, but because of the limitations of Redis and because of our needs, we're going to switch where that data is stored to something that's more like persistent. And in our case, that's Postgres. So let's see, what we can do is right under where we're defining our Redis client, I just copied and pasted some text. And what we'll say right now is just post or connection string will just be Postgres //localhost/ Sorrento. That's going to be where our database is located, because that's just, oh snap. Yo, Jad Sorion, thank you for the follow. And we just got raided by NN Jiao with a party of 34. Yo, thank you everybody. Welcome to the stream. IDs at random, thank you for the follow. So we're here. We're just kind of like struggling through this waitlist app. we're building a wait list for our friend's barbershop, um, for whenever they happen to reopen. And it's yo Larry's. Thank you for the follow. But yeah, it's been a really fun project um, so far. Maybe I can actually show you kind of like what we've got going at the moment. Um, I need to create one more terminal and start a Redis server again to make that work. So we'll go Redis server, and I'm just gonna comment out this DB connection thing that we're started
Yeah.
doing. All right. So here in our beautiful looking front end, we're essentially rendering out a list of customers. So for some background, our friend owns a barbershop. The barbershop is walk-in only currently, or it has been since he took over, and they're currently closed due to the global health crisis. And when they reopen, he wants to implement some new rules, like the number of people that can be in the shop at any one time. And one of the tools that he wants to use to make that happen is like an SMS based wait list. So when people show up at the shop, instead of just walking in and sitting down, they have to like text a number to get added to the wait list if there's not enough spots in the barbershop to sit down, and then go walk around the neighborhood for a bit, and then we'll text them back when it's their time to get their hair cut. So to do that, we're using like a Node server and the Twilio API to receive text messages and reply to people, and then from the barber's perspective, they need a way. Oh, that's awesome. Um, Yo, Scott, thank you for the follow, man. Um, that's my buddy Scott from Scott Philpott from high school. I don't know if you know Scott, Ken, but also went to HT. Um,
How are you?
but yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and then on the front end, the barbers need a way to see the current wait list of customers, and then also like make um, make adjustments to it, like uh, take people off the wait list, or advance the list essentially. So here's a quick demo. We have on my screen. I've got two windows that represent like two different machines. Yo, what is up, Arthur? Thank you for the YOLO stream there. Um, but what I've got going is I have this little number that I can text. I'll text my name to get on the list. Let's see what happens. So I text it, and then Twilio, if everything works all right. Uh-oh. Something may have not worked all right. Let's see what's going on. Womp. Oh, I know what went wrong. So I misconfigured our Twilio web tunnel. So we have to point it to the /SMS route. And then once that gets set up, I'll try firing this text off again. Twilio will intercept that, or will receive that text, and then send a webhook to our little local SMS route that we have set up. And that's where we can handle that request, like put that person's name in our Redis list, and then hopefully send a message back to our client saying, hey, this list has been updated and here's the new list. So here I'm going to text my name, Trevor, to the number. And then there we go. I get added to the list, and I get a message back, sent back to me via SMS, telling me, you're on the list, and there's 0 people ahead of you, and this and that. And Ken also just, I almost called you Kent. Ken just sent a message as well. Hey, all right, and Zhao. Yeah, thank you so much for the raid. I hope you have a good rest of your night. Peace out. Um, So yeah, that's the project so far, and where we're at now is, we found that this strategy we're using works really well for managing a list of names, but now we need to add some more information to our customers. Like we need to keep track of their phone number so that we can message them back when it's their turn to get their haircut, and we want to associate like a barber name with a customer so we know who's cutting whose hair, that kind of thing. So today we're going to migrate from our previous Redis based like data store to Postgres. And one of the side effects of that is that we get this data is going to be persistent. Like we can do things like display customer trends over time by querying the data that we get sent to the API. So yeah, that's where we're at now. I'm going to take a swig of water and then we'll jump back in.
Drink up, my friend.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so everything works still, and what Ken and I were talking about just a moment ago was that what we can do is just try to aim to send when the page first loads. We make a connection to our WebSocket server, and then we get sent back an array of customers. And currently, that array of customers is getting pulled from Redis, and I think that a good like first step would be sending back an array of customers based on the data in our Postgres table, and that for now can just be an empty array. So yeah, to do that, we're going to first need to create our new like database or like connects. What do they call it? Connects instance. Seems like, yeah, initializing the library. Whatever. We're creating our the thing on which we're going to write all of our queries. So I'm going to have to require connects from connects, and then we say const db equals connects with our all of our database options passed in there. And now we can take that db object, and down here where we handle new connections to our WebSocket server, we can do something like this. We can say customers equals db, and then target our customers table. And I wonder if we even have to do anything else. Maybe we just call select or something. Let's see. Yeah, I think that we might be good to go just like this. And so DB customers will return a promise, so we can handle that promise using this then method. In fact, we'll do this customers, and what we were doing before was just emitting this data event with our customers that we got back from Redis, and instead we'll do the same thing but just emit our customers that we got from Postgres. So let's see if that works. So now we're expecting to get an empty array, no errors, please. And just to make sure that that is working as expected, what I'm going to do is in our React app, I'm just going to console log customers. And indeed, I get a log in the console here, or a few of them, with an empty array. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's let's I guess do the next thing, which is handling new customers being added to the list. So that would be in our slash SMS route where we handle incoming messages. Currently, we do use this rpush method, or this like rpush Redis command, and we just add the person's whatever they texted us to the list. But now, as this little to do message points out, we also need to save the rec body from property, which is the customer's phone number. So yeah, let's see. Ken, do you want to write this, or do you mind if I keep going?
Go
Okay.
for it.
So what we'll do is just we'll call DB with the customers table and say insert, and we can go name rec body dot body, and phone is going to be rec body dot from. And again, these phone and name properties are mapping to the columns in our customers table. And I don't need to provide an ID every time because the ID is set to auto increment, or that's what should happen. Let's see if that actually does happen in practice. So this should be enough to kind of get that going, and then we can just say then and handle the promise. But before I type that, I want to look up in the connects docs what insert returns. Okay, so it appears like, and I'm just kind of remembering this as I'm going. If we want to get back any of the stuff that we just added, we have to add this returning method after insert. So we'd be like returning, whatever column names we want, and then we handle the promise. But yeah, as I'm just thinking about this, maybe we don't really need to get back anything about the customer that we just inserted, because what we end up doing right here in this display list function is once a new customer gets added, we broadcast the entire new list to all of the WebSockets that are connected. So really, like, yeah, we don't need to get any information about the one that was just inserted because we're going to get all of them and broadcast an event after it's been inserted. So we can just handle the promise like so. Ooh, I guess we do care about the count, don't we? Like, this is the total length of the list. But maybe we can deal with that separately. Okay. So we're going to have to re-implement this display list for it to work, and we have to get the new count of people ahead. So to do that, let's just say const count equals, and connects has a method for counting as well. So let's look up count. And I mean, I think we can just say, I wonder if we can just say count equals db customers again, and then we'll just count the number of customers who have an ID, which should be all of them. And we might want to tweak that later, say like count only the customers who are currently in line, or something like that when we start to make those designations. But for now, this should do the trick. And then we can say then and handle the count. Okay. So this is starting to look like it might work. Let's see, we're inserting a customer into our customers table, and then we're counting all of the customers in the customers table. And then with that count, we can determine the number of people ahead, send our message back to the person who texted, and then the final thing we need to do is broadcast, the total, all of the customers back to the clients, which essentially means we need to call this io.emit data event. So here's what I'm thinking. We're already counting all of the people in the table. Why don't we just do something like this, where instead of counting everybody, we select everybody from the table, and then this count variable becomes customers, and we can get the total number of customers using customers dot length. So that still works. But now when it comes to this display list function, we can just, oops, did I mess that up? We can just call io.emit with all the customers instead of having to like fetch the customers again. And my editor does this thing, Ken, where whenever it notices a pattern like this, where you're assigning a variable to an object key and you hit save, it automatically condenses that down into this like more concise syntax, which is kind of nice.
Damn, that is nice and concise. Is that only if the key and the value are
Yeah,
the same?
exactly. If the value is a variable whose name is the same as the key. So in this case, customers.
Then you can just throw that in curlies.
Yeah, in that case, you can just omit this
True.
part. But if this variable is different, like people ahead, then nothing happens. You're saying customers is going to be equal to people ahead. But yeah, for this, we can just say that. So this might work. Let's. I guess there's only one way to find out, huh?
Ever.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. And we should be able to notice two things to confirm that it works. We should have a new customer show up in the database table as well. But I'm just going to text my name. Let's see. Oh. And. Okay, so somebody was added to the list. But now we're getting an error in React because the way that we're rendering our list of customers is assuming that each customer is just a name. So we're gonna have to change the way that we handle this. Yeah, do you want to take over from here and I'll chug some water?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
So we need to update our JSX at the bottom here.
Yeah, exactly. So right now we're just rendering out. We're mapping over each customer, and then we're like just rendering the customer as if it was just a string. So we're gonna want to render like currently. If we look at the console log that was made, or it should show up, like we'll get yeah, here we go. So this is what our customers array looks like now. It's an array of objects. Each object has an ID and a name and a phone property. So rather than just rendering the customer in here, we're going to want to render like just the name property.
Okay. Can we tackle that by just...
Yep, exactly. And then
Yeah.
we're also currently using the index, the array index as a key, but a more stable strategy, or like giving each customer like a more unique key is probably a good idea.
Okay.
So to do that, what I would probably recommend doing is just using the customer ID property instead of the index.
Okay. Um,
So yeah, we would pass it in the key prop on the Lee.
oh,
No,
sorry.
you're good. You're good.
Sorry. What was it before?
It was index, but right now, or like once we replace index as the key prop, we don't even need to access the second argument in this function. We can just use the customer.
Just like that.
It would be customer.id is the
Oh, it was
common name,
ID.
yeah.
Sure.
And then maybe what we can also do, since we're getting the phone number associated with the customer, we can just like render the phone number in the page as well. Like, what do you think about? Well, let's first see if this works. So, if I refresh the page, now I get my name in there, and maybe it would be helpful to have like my name and then my phone number in parentheses after it.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Um, what was it? What was the number saved under in the object?
It's just phone is the property.
Okay.
Nice. All right, save that puppy and let's see what
Uh,
happens. Beauty. Cool. So that works. Ken, do you want to try sending a text to the number and see if you get added?
yep.
Awesome. I went for a hike today and I climbed a. There was like a rope hanging from a tree, and I jumped on the rope and I swung from it. Nice. There you go. Um,
Really?
oh, interesting. What happened? Oh, I see. So anyway, I swung from this rope, and I don't know what the deal with it was, but now I've been like pulling out these like shards of rope from my hands all the way back. I just found another one. Good
Oh yeah.
times.
Love
Okay,
that.
so that works. And maybe what we'll do is actually just hide the customer phone for now, just considering. I don't know.
We're on Twitch.
Yeah.
I
um,
just got signed up for every mailing list.
yeah. Nope rope. Um, yeah, it's no big deal, but yeah, that might it's might that might be something that we want to implement later when it's for reals and the people who are looking at this are barbers.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, cool. So this all works. Ken, have you ever used have you used promises very much like this then syntax?
Only in like working with like Ajax or like
Yeah.
Axios calls. Um,
Have you learned much about async and await? Is that like a does that ring a bell?
yeah, I've learned about it, but I haven't like used it in practice very
Cool.
much.
Well, we have a bunch of these promises hanging around in our app now. Like we have these DB um, calls that we make, insert and getting customers and stuff. What we could do is convert these to using async and await, and it might make the code look a lot sweeter. And so the way that it works is well, it's called async and await for a reason. what this allows you to do is write your write like asynchronous code in a way that looks like sequential. So rather than saying db customers dot then and then working with customers, you could say I'm going to write on a different line const customers equals await db customers, and then we could just socket emit those customers. So we do it in this fashion that is very much like do this and then do this, like it looks sequential rather than having this nesting where, as you can see in the insert statement up here, we've got this like nesting of thenable promises. So we say db customers insert, then db customers, then, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're constantly chaining. So we could refactor this to use async and await, and it might make the code a little cleaner. And so the reason that they're mentioned as a pair is that in order to use this await keyword, you have to use the async function or the async keyword ahead of the function that you want to use await within. And so it would just look like this. And the other thing that is important to mention about this is that if you use this await keyword, you can think of this as like a blocking action. So when this function hits this await db customers, none of the stuff below it can fire until this promise has been resolved. And that's good for this line, but this line doesn't need to know anything about the customers before it's fired. Like we want to set up this next event handler right away. So it just means that we should probably restructure this function so that as soon as we get a connection, we set up the next event, and then we get the customers, and then we emit a data event with the customers. Cool. Do you want to take a stab at making this function use async and await rather than promises?
This is it the app.post function?
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. Yeah. So
So
so yeah, the first thing you want to do is add that async keyword.
and then we basically sorry, I'm gonna reference the one you did.
Mm-hmm.
So would it be right here?
Yeah, exactly. And then
And then
you can like omit the then part there and just they grab the stuff within the then or within the then
yeah, okay.
function, and then basically paste it.
Oops.
There we go. Yeah, then you can just scrap that whole then part.
And whoops. And then that would go in just in here.
Yeah, like right after your await call there. Cool. What's it complaining about? Oh, this for some reason it added like a space there. That's funky. Anyway, hit save again, and it should all reformat.
For some reason, it's not. Oh, there we go.
Okay, cool.
There's a lot of formatting to be done there.
Cool. So that's like one part, and now that we have that, we can basically do or do something similar with the second part. So here we're saying DB customers then, and then handle the customers.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, you can use await in this block as well.
Oops. Sorry, when you scroll,
Oops, my bad.
and then we can just get rid of this.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And oh, it's so weird. It keeps adding this space in this customers thing. All right, cool. Now the only thing that's missing is that this customers variable is still not defined. So um,
Uh,
previously we were saying like DB customers then and then handling the return value customers.
yeah.
So if you're using await, instead what you can do is just say like you can use that return value or that like resolved value as a variable, like const customers equals await DB customers. Hey, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate that.
Await dot customers.
No. You got it would be like on this line here. No, you're good.
Like
You're like it's a saying that you're like awaiting the response from this DB customers promise. Yeah, exactly like that.
beautiful.
That's it.
Sorry, just trying to wrap my head around it while I'm.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, it's like a totally different mental model for handling promises. But the end result is, I think more readable code. Like we can go through this thing just kind of like step by step, and whenever you see these like await keywords, it tells you that this is like a process that happens asynchronously, and none of the stuff below it is gonna get touched until we have customers.
Yeah, it's more
Mm-hmm.
semantic. Like it kind of has a lot better
Yeah,
readability.
absolutely. Um, cool. What's up, Miguel? Yeah, man, we're slanging that heat.
So my go.
Okay, cool. Now the last thing that we need to do is this like handling this next event. And one of the things that we talked about was instead of like one thing like one way to go about it would be to just remove a row from like remove the first row from the database, and that would essentially um, like give us the same behavior as before. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe what we do instead is like keep all the rows in the database, but just add a new column that says like whether they're waiting or not. Um, yeah, that way we are able to like keep a record of all of the people who've come through. So what I can do in my database is just add a new column. And okay, what do you think, Ken? Should we call this column served or waiting? Like which property or something else entirely? Like what property do we want to account for? Like uh,
This is referring to people that are currently being served or people in the queue to be
yeah,
served.
like yes. Essentially, we want to have like a column that will differentiate people from in the waiting list to or people in the waiting list from people who are being served. And so we could go about it one of two ways. Like if we call the column served, then then like when it's false, it means you're in the waiting list. If we call the column waiting, then when it's true, you're in the waiting list.
Hmm. Oh, I see.
It doesn't really
You're
matter.
trying to figure out where to place the boolean on whether they're being
Yeah, that's exactly it.
whether they're waiting or whether they're being
Yeah.
served. Hmm. Um. Um. I I guess maybe like if waitlist equals
Sure.
false, like kind of
Yeah.
still on the waitlist. I
Sure.
don't know.
Yeah,
They're
so it does. There's no correct answer.
different
Let's,
sides of the same coin.
yeah, let's just call it waiting, and we'll set the default. We'll set the default value to true. So when you get added to the waitlist, you're automatically set to waiting, and then when we handle that next event, we'll set waiting to false.
Cool.
Okay. So if I go back to,
What app are you using for your table again?
it's called Postico. I'll link in chat actually.
It's a like a Postgres client.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm using two things. I'm using Postico as my Postgres client, and then to run um, to run Postgres locally on my Mac, I'm using this Postgres app.
Mm.
And yeah, these two tools together make it dead simple to set up Postgres tables on your computer if you're on a Mac. I'm sure there's an equally simple Windows version as well.
Cool.
Okay, so everything still works. We now have this waiting property on each of our customers. And why don't we set up this next event handler? So currently we're just popping the last name or the first name off of the list in Redis. So instead of doing that, we can say db target the customers table, and let's see. How should we go about this? We want to update. We only want to update the first one, right? Hmm. We can also, like, the other option is, because now every customer is associated with an ID, right? Like we've got an ID column for each customer. We might
Hmm.
consider handling this next operation differently. So rather than just saying like grab the next person off the list, we can make a generic like socket event that just says transition a customer with this ID from waiting to served, or like turn their waiting boolean to false, and then return a list of customers. And the other thing that this allows us to do is then implement a functionality where like we can pick and choose a customer and say, I want this customer to be next. And that's something that we talked about with Deco as well. But
Hmm.
then just to satisfy this next customer, the first person on the list type of functionality, what we could do is something like this, where are you seeing in our React component, our
Yep. Well,
so our next customer button is firing this on our handle next click function.
hmm.
But let's say that our socket emit our socket event, maybe we call it something more generic like serve, like we're ready to serve this customer. Um, Maybe then we can pass it an ID of like customers, the first customer, and pass their ID. And then that's how our next customer button works. But then for every list item, we could also really easily create a button that also calls socket emit serve, but with that particular customer's ID. Um, so that might be a way that we can like do this next customer and individual customer thing all in one shebang.
Yep. I like that.
Okay, so we can still call it handle next click, but handle next click will now just emit this serve event with an ID.
Hmm.
Great. And maybe what we can do just to make sure that if we have a list of no customers, we can actually see exactly how this would work. Well, I guess we have two customers there, and our serve event isn't hooked up. But if you imagine if we have a no customers in the queue, and we try to run this function, what's going to happen is customers at index 0 will be undefined because it doesn't exist. And then we try to access this ID property of undefined, and our system will just break. It'll be like, there's no ID property on undefined. So to avoid this to avoid that scenario, we can do a couple of different things. Like on one hand, we could throw this in an if statement, say like if customers at 0 index, then so like if this exists, if this is undefined, it will fail this check. So then this socket emit call will not fire. So that's one way we can do it. Another thing we could do is use this button disabled prop. So we could say like it's disabled when customers.length is equal to 0 or something like that. That way, whenever somebody clicks on that button, the event handler will not get fired if the button's disabled. So that might be another way. What do you think? I kind of like this disabled pattern myself.
Yeah, me too. Never used that prop before.
It's really, really handy. And another way that we can write this condition, so right now this is saying like disabled is true if customers.length is equal to 0. And another way that we can describe that is just with this bang operator.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. So this is like a much more concise. So if like there's no customer's length.
Concise.
Yeah. Okay, but before we can even see if that works, we're gonna have to create the serve handler. So in here we're setting up a handler for the next event. We'll just change that to serve, and I think is this first prop just data? I think that's how it was. I forget what it was like when we were hooking these up before, but
me too. I think that was the one.
Yeah, I think that's it. Anyway, we'll find out pretty soon. What do you think? Do you want to write this handler, Ken?
Sure.
I'll walk you through it just because like you've never used connects before, but it might be satisfying. So we're using connects to access the customers table in our database, and then we want to find a row in the customers table where the ID is equal to the ID that we just passed as data to this event. And then when we find that row, we want to update its weighting column. So the syntax there is, well, for starters, we can make this function asynchronous, so we can use await.
Is it within this on connection, or is it outside?
It would be right here, like at the beginning of the actual. This is the function that we need to be async.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be sync there.
Yeah.
And then here we want await.
Yeah, and we just you can say DB. And the way that Connects works, they give you a bunch of different APIs that you can use. So you can be like a DB table customers, or if you want to be more succinct, you can just say DB customers, and it does the same thing. So that's like targeting the table, and then you can use the where. All of these methods are chainable. So the next thing you want to do is say where, and the signature of this, what the, um, is like, and this takes a few different signatures, but the one that we'll use is where like the first argument is the column name, so ID as a string, like you have it, and then the second argument is like the value that we want to match. In this case, it would be data.id, like the thing that we passed to our API. Okay, and then you can chain the update method to the end there, and so we'd say, oh my goodness, update, and I'm just going to look at the connects docs real quick. And yeah, like you can actually just same style of function signature. Like first argument is the column name, which is waiting, and we want to set that to false. And yeah, that's it. And then the last thing that we want to do is get all the customers and again like emit a data event like we did up here. So that should do it for that call. Like what you just wrote there is going to update our customer, and then yeah, we emit our current customer state. And before we can do that, we're going to need to get the current state of customers again. So like the way that we're doing up here, we would do in the serve handler as well.
Just at the bottom
right
here?
before the IO call. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, like the order of things is we make our update call, and then once this promise gets resolved, then we know that the column's been updated, so we grab the current state of the customer's table and then return that back to the client. Just one operation after the next. So yeah, that, I mean, it might work. Let's see what happens here. So let's see. In our React app, we were console logging the customers. I'm just going to do that again because that is handy. So I can see kind of like what the status is. In fact, maybe what we can do, whatever. I was going to say what we could do is have like some indication of whether the person's waiting or not, but yeah, why don't we do that? We'll just say like customer.waiting, then we'll say like waiting, otherwise being served. So now if we Trevor waiting, test waiting, if we hit next customer, let's see what happens. All right. So now we have test waiting and Trevor is being served. And then if we hit next customer again, they're both being served. Great. That's pretty cool. But maybe a better way to display this would be like actually having two lists, like one waiting list and one list of customers who are being served currently.
Yeah.
So to do that, we can first of all, let's change this list to show only customers who are waiting, and I'm gonna add myself to the list again. Trevor again. Let's see what happens. There I am. Cool. Yeah. Do you want to take this and essentially what we'll want to do is like filter on customers who are waiting. So
okay, switching out map filter.
So well, what we can do basically is like just instead of switching it out, we could just add a filter step before we map. So we'll say like, yeah, first filter and then map. And again, this is like another instance of like a chainable method where the return value of filter is an array, and that means that we can just call map on the return value.
Oh yeah, true, true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
So
how did?
so yeah, the way that filter works is that you want to return true or false depending on whether you should keep or omit that item from the array. So in this case, we're going to return true if waiting is true, return false if waiting is false.
Do we need the false statement, or since it's a boolean, can we just return it if it's
Yeah, I
true?
mean, yeah, you're right on the money. Like since it's a boolean, you can actually just return customer.waiting in this case, because customer.waiting will
Oh,
always either
true.
be true or false.
Yeah, good call. And then we can just take this. Um, so
I,
chain map onto the
I,
filter step.
yeah, no, I'm just saying like in here, like here's this one way we could do it is say like, yeah, if customer waiting is true, then return true, else return false. Like this is one way to write it, but this is pretty verbose. What
Yeah.
we like, what we're essentially saying is customer waiting is either true or false, and filter is expecting, a truthy or falsy value to be returned. So instead, what we could do is just say return customer.waiting.
Oh,
And
okay.
because this is the way that our function looks, where we have an arrow function that has a single return statement, this means that we can use an implicit return when we're writing this function. That's one of the things that we talked about last week, I think. Um,
Yeah.
do you remember how that looks?
Yeah, you just take out these. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. And we take out
Yep,
return.
that's it. And then the semicolon can go as well.
I'm
No, you're
sorry.
good. Yeah, this semicolon right here.
Oh shit.
That one
Sorry.
can get deleted, and then you hit save, and it'll auto format. And again, now this like as an expression, it reads pretty well. We're getting our customers, we're filtering the customers based on their waiting property, and
Mhm.
then mapping over the remaining ones. And one thing I should mention about this filter or this filter method on arrays is that the value that you end up returning in each iteration, it doesn't have to be exactly true or false. It has to. You can think of it as like what would pass an if statement. So, for example, like if we say customer.name here, what this does is it will filter out people whose names are like an empty string. An empty string in JavaScript is a falsy value. So this would be like a filter that only gave us customers who filled out their name. But in our case, this is also really convenient because we know that waiting is either true or false, and it's very clear cut. But yeah, now this function actually does work. We have our waitlist only the customers who are currently waiting. Um, so what I'm going to do is just add a little heading here saying like waiting, and then add another heading, uh, H3 served, and then why don't we? I'm going to get you to make the served list.
Well. So, okay, question. Is this possible?
Let's see. Hit save. Boom. There we go.
Is that the like smart way to do this?
Absolutely, yeah. That's exactly the way to do this.
All right.
Love it. Okay, awesome. Now, if we hit next customer, we should. Oh, this is interesting. So next customer is still wired up to just send the ID of the first customer in the array. We want to make sure specifically that it sends the first customer in the wait list. And similarly, we don't want to disable our next customer button if there's no customers in total. We only want to disable if there's no customers in the wait list. So what this means is that we should we can just call this customers.filter multiple times like this. But I think this calls for making our waitlist customers into a variable. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, okay, so yeah, do you want to keep driving? Okay.
Sure. If you want to keep
directing. Sure.
Steering.
Yeah. So well, first of all, we can create a variable. Call it something that makes sense.
So we're trying to set a variable for the first customer in the wait list.
Right now, I think we just want the most reusable thing right now would be setting a variable that represents only the waiting customers.
Okay.
And it'll be equal to this value here, customers.filter with this filter.
Okay.
But yeah, you can call the variable waiting customers. I think that would be sufficient. And we do the same filter there. Beautiful. And then we can replace this customers.filter with waiting customers instead. Oh, and you just need to, yeah, there you go. You got it. And then
I'm getting it.
And then in here, the logic here is we want to disable the button when there's no customers in the wait list. So rather than making the condition, bang customers.length, we can do bang waiting customers.length. Sweet. And then finally, the handle next click, it needs to send the ID of the first waiting customer rather than the first customer in general. Beautiful. All right, let's try this out then. Do you want to hit next customer on yours?
Absolutely.
What happened?
There's no customers in mine.
Oh shit. No, none at all.
No.
Oh.
Everything else is updated though. We got our H3s.
Hmm.
This happened last time. I can't remember why.
I thought
Was
it
it
was because we weren't sharing the API port, but now there might be a different issue.
you're on localhost 8000?
Yeah. Hmm. How interesting, eh? What I'm wondering is if it has to do with this database. I doubt it though.
Just checking my console to see if there's anything. Cross origin request blocked. Same origin policy. Disallows reading the remote resource at localhost 4000 slash socket.io. CORS
What?
request.
That's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna try showing the server again. Maybe that'll help.
Okay.
4,000. Okay.
Now that you mention it, when you were deleting all the customers we had from our demo, okay, it's working.
Yes. Okay, I think I fucked it up before, and I
Okay.
accidentally added port 400 instead of port 4,000.
Uh,
Classic.
is that 400 is the new
Yeah.
port? It's the next. So you want me to hit next customer now?
Yeah, hit next customer. All right,
Boom.
beautiful. So now, yeah, we got that customer sent to served, and our next customer button is now disabled.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. I'm also looking at our API code, and we can actually now get rid of some stuff in here. Like, we can delete this display list function because we're not using that anymore. And
See
once
ya.
we get rid of that, we get red underlines under this client and the list name and this Redis require statement. And because we just removed that Redis require statement, I'm going to uninstall that from our API node modules as well.
Sounds
If I
good.
can, there we go. So I'll just say npm uninstall Redis. I think that's all that we need to uninstall there. I think. And it means that we can shut down our Redis server as well and trash that tab. Cool. Okay. Now I'm just going to npm start our API again. I think this is probably a good spot to make a commit before we do anything else.
Okay.
Do you want to do that in terminal 4?
Terminal 4. Yeah.
Scott's in the chat with the YOLO emoji. I like it. It describes what we're doing, man. We're currently living only once.
How would you describe our new server? It's
Implemented Postgres database. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's add ourselves to the waitlist again so that we have something to work with.
Yep. I'm just gonna run to the bathroom real quick while we're doing that.
All right. It's true, man. You do. Kenlo. All right, so this works pretty well. What I'm noticing is that our served list is probably backwards because the last one that we accepted was this Trevor again, and that should probably be like when we take this person from the top, they should appear at the top of served, I think. And right now, they'll appear at the bottom. So that's something that we'll have to do next. I'm actually going to run to the bathroom as well, and we will be right back. Okay, we are back, and we're gonna keep pressing forward. There's one crucial thing that we still need to do here for this app to work properly, which is responding or sending the customer in line a text when we hit that next button. We want to send them a text saying like, "You're up next, and your spot will be held for 5 minutes," something along those lines. And because we're now storing the phone number in our Postgres table, we can actually do that. So that's pretty awesome. One little thing I did notice, Ken, before we dive into that, is just um, the order of this served list is. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I think it would make more sense if it was reversed. Like if we were when I hit next on this, I'm expecting Kenlo to show up at the top of the served list, but instead Kenlo shows up at the bottom. Um, and I don't know. Like, I guess what do you think? Like, on one hand, it might make sense that like this represents kind of like top to bottom the people that we served from the beginning of the day to the end, but I don't know.
No, I kind of agree. It should be like the most recent at the top,
Okay.
and you kind of
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so to do that, we're already doing this like filter operation. Arrays also have this reverse method on them. So if we do that, that should just happen. No problem. Now we're lucky that we're using this filter before we call reverse, because the way reverse works is it 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 returns an array, but it also mutates the original array. So if you pass in um, if you pass in some array that's ordered in a particular way and you call reverse on it, the order of that original array will change. So in our case, that might be problematic because we have two different things that are derived from this original customers array: the waiting customers and the served customers. So anyway, that like if we called array reverse at this level, it would affect this customers variable, which would also have an effect on our waiting customers. If we have, let's see what happens if I add myself to this list. Again, let's see if we can make this happen in practice. So yeah, actually this is a really good illustration of it. So here we call reverse after the filter, and then if I call reverse, if I remove reverse from after the filter, then it goes back to the original order. Okay, now I'm going to apply reverse before the filter, and we should see it reverse again. That's cool. But now when I remove the reverse, the order should stay the same, because what we did is we like changed the value of the underlying customers array, and so that's why this is a problematic method to use. But the important part is that if we apply the reversal after the filter, what we're actually doing is we're only reversing the return value of customers.filter. We're not going to affect the original value of customers, because customers.filter doesn't do anything to that underlying customers array. It takes the customers array and returns a brand new array, and so we have there's no issue with calling reverse on that. So anyway, that's like in fact, if we call reverse on the already reversed customers array, then we get the opposite effect that we want to have. So anyway, if I refresh the page, we'll get that proper treatment. Wonderful. Cool. Let's go write some code that replies to a customer. Okay, so this is going to have to happen in our serve event handler, where right now we're just going in, finding a customer that that matches the ID that were passed, and then updating its waiting column. But what we really want to do is like first get customer by ID, and then send them a text, and then like do the rest of the stuff. Below. Yeah. So the way that this will work is we can actually reuse some of this stuff. Like we'll say up here we can say like const customer equals a customer where ID equals data ID. And from there we can use customer.phone, because that was one of the columns that we configured in the database. So that'll be useful. Mm-hmm. But before we can do anything, I'm going to go back to the Twilio documentation where we were looking before, sending messages. So we're going to have to do this stuff. All right. So I guess we can set up a Twilio client similar to how they did up here. So we'll just say I'm going to copy that line from the docs, and I'm going to have to replace this account SID and auth token with my real account SID and auth token. But because we're on stream, or just generally, like, I don't want to just write these values out in my code, especially if I'm committing it to a public repo. You know, it's a security liability. So what I'm going to do is store them in my environment variable instead. And so what I'm going to do is actually just move this screen or this file off screen, add those two environment variables, and then we can consume them in the app without actually exposing them to the wild.
Cool.
All right, let me go grab that. So I'll log into Twilio. And use my password. Set 2FA up later. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to move this console onto my other screen so I can do this thing.
Yeah. Your top secret shit.
Yep. Dude, I don't even know where to look for this stuff. Maybe settings? API keys? All right, I think we're in this. Account SID. Wait, let's see. Okay, hold on. I'm just figuring out exactly what I need to add here. I have an auth token. How do I find my auth token? Your account ID and auth token from Twilio/console. Oh, I found it. Hey, thank you for the follow, the Kinster. Thank you very much. Okay, I found my auth token and account ID. Okay, I'm going to put this Twilio account SID equals that value, and my Twilio auth token is this value. Wait a minute. There we go. And I've got like live and test credentials, so I'm guessing that I'll want to use like the different credentials, like I was talking about before. When we're running this in like a production environment, we'll use a different auth token and account SID than when we're just like testing it locally.
Cool.
All right, so now I've got those variables configured in my env file, so I can access these by saying process.env. I called it Twilio account SID, and process env Twilio auth token. Great. Now that we have that set up, we can use this client.messages.create method to just send a message to any particular number. And because the way that they wrote this tells me that this create method returns a promise because they're calling then. So that means that we can use async and await with this method as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude. All right. Do you see the cursor here?
Yep.
All right. You do you want to implement this part?
Oh, hold up.
Okay. I'm in that send messages docs that I linked you 2 links ago in Hangouts.
Cool.
Yep.
This client.messages create. Cool.
Yep.
Boom.
So we'll actually want to do that above, like, before. Oh well, let's see. Should we? I guess it's important to consider the order of things here. Like, do we want to send the message and then set their waiting state to false, or set their waiting state to false and then send the message? Because I'm thinking, like, my initial thinking was that, like, we don't want to set waiting to false until we've, like, confirmed that we sent the message, so that, yeah, I don't know, so that, like, the when the barber sees that they're not waiting anymore, like, we know that they've, I don't know if we can tell if they've got the message, but we've at least successfully sent them a message.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
All right.
So, message.
Nice. To meet your match.
This is the worst part of coding, is coming up with copy.
Yeah, luckily we can put whatever we want, and then just tell Andrew to, like, give us official copy.
Exactly. From, we want our.
Oh yeah, our number, which is I'm gonna grab it from terminal number 2. It is actually, yeah, you can probably see it and just, like, copy and paste it.
Terminal 2.
You see it there, like, phone numbers update.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we need to put in a separate or a different status callback, or is this a standard? Oh no, that's
I would just remove the status callback
altogether.
Yeah.
See you later.
We don't need it right now.
And we want it to go to the customer dot phone.
Yeah.
Actually, it's customers,
Yeah,
right?
it should be customer.phone.
Yeah. Cool.
Great. And then we get like a message ID back, and that might be useful. Just, like, as kind of like a receipt, and we can store that in our table as well. Like, just to, if I don't know exactly why we might need to use it, but just to, like, look up that, like, represents that, that that message has been sent. Here's the message ID. Like, if you need to track it down, maybe we could use that in the Twilio dashboard or something like that. I don't know, but
Okay.
but yeah, like, well, for starters, we're already calling update. Like, we're updating the customer row. Afterwards, with waiting set to false. What we can also do is just like we can create a new column called like receipt, um, and then set it to message SID in this same block here. And like I was saying before, since this client messages.create returns a promise, we can use that await syntax here as well, instead of using the then callback.
Okay.
So yeah, like what I would do is just like remove the whole then part, and then instead we'll just call, because client.messages create resolves with a message, then the way that we'll write this is like by creating a message variable that's equal to await the client messages create function.
Okay. What do you want to call it?
We'll just call it message.
Message.
And yeah, it'll be awaiting client messages create. Beautiful. And then finally, everything else should just work the same. So like we said before, because we're using await here, all of this, the work below it, is blocked on this promise being fulfilled. So we're not gonna, like, this code is unreachable until after we have a message, and that's really useful because we want to update the customer row with waiting set to false, and like the receipt set to the message.sid property. So before we can do that, I'm just going to create a new column in our database called receipt, and it's going to be variable varying character, and I can just save those changes. And now the function signature for this update method can be the way we have it, like key as the first argument, value as the second argument. But in our case, what we want to do is update two columns at once. And to do that, we can just use this syntax, like an object syntax. We can say waiting equals false. False. And then why don't you add the receipt and set it to the message SID as well.
Is that how it was written out?
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's it. Cool.
Beautiful.
All right, so why don't we just go save, and now we can test this thing out. I'm going to delete some of these comments. Okay. Let's try it out. So now, when I think I submitted both of these names, so I'm gonna hit next, and I'm expecting to get a message on my phone. Here we go. Let's see what happens. Oh wait, interesting. So this this actually didn't even work. I'm gonna look at my console and see what's going on here. Required parameter opt2 is missing. Missing? How dare they? Oh, okay. This is actually a little nuance about connects, and this is something I just remembered, is that when I say DB customers where ID equals data ID, what it's actually doing is saying, give me all of the rows where ID matches data ID. And the return value by default is an array of customers. And in order to indicate that you only want to get one customer, we can just chain this first method at the end here. So now it's saying, give me the first row in the database where ID equals data ID. And this might be redundant because there's only ever going to be one row with a particular ID, but Connects doesn't know that right out of the box, so we have to specify this first, the first method as well. So let's try this again. But this is also really useful. You know, the order that we picked here makes sense now because I clicked next customer and an error happened, and Jay is still waiting because if an error happens in this block, we don't get a chance to update the row in the block following. So now let's try again. I'm gonna just restart and hit next customer. Still problems, huh? Let's take a look. The from phone number is not a valid SMS. That's so interesting. It totally should be. Okay.
Twilio number?
Yeah, maybe could it be that we have these two things backward? I don't think so.
It wouldn't be the plus in it, would it?
Well, in the example, they have the pluses in there.
True. True.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Let's see. Okay, from specifies the Twilio phone number. Okay. I wonder if I need to like set this number as one that can send messages. It says in here, it's not an SMS capable inbound phone number or short code. But I'm pretty sure it is. 330-8137. Well, what's that?
I mean, it's sending responses based on the initial text,
Right?
so it should be able to send
Yeah.
another text
Yeah, so
based
strange.
on a different.
Let's check out this phone numbers tab. This page is always so janky to load. So yeah, incoming. Okay, so yeah, this looks like it should work. SMS capable. All that. Okay, here's another thought that I have. I'm just going to restart my development server because we haven't done that since I added those environment variables. So there's a chance that maybe they didn't get picked up or like factored into the equation. And so it's like it's trying to associate the number with an account that isn't configured. So now we should have a server that started. I can check that by refreshing the page, and now I hit next customer and still nothing. Let's see what we got. Interesting. Yeah, it still thinks that this is not a valid number. I'm gonna just check the environment variables off screen to see if we can figure this out.
Get
Twilio account SID, Twilio auth token. And I'm gonna go. I use the test auth ID or account SID and auth token, and I think that maybe I have to use my live credentials instead. So let's try that.
Oh yeah, because that was the test environment.
I think that's what might be going on.
Because even in my phone, it says like from your Twilio trial. Maybe they limited.
Yeah, who knows? We also like there might be a way to send like use test numbers and like test stuff that we're not doing. But fuck it, let's try to get this working. Luckily, I still have like $13 of Twilio credit that we can use to develop this. And when I started, we had 14, so we're almost a 14th of the way through our allowance. Okay, so I updated those. I'm going to restart the development server to make sure that they get picked up. And let's try this again. Next customer. Didn't get an error. Okay, now we got an error. Okay, we got an error, but check this out. I got a test. I got a message. It said, your barber is ready to serve you. Please head over to Sorrento to meet your barber.
Copy.
Nice. Okay, but now our error is update customers set waiting to this column receipt of relation customers does not exist. Oh, dude, I think one of us spelled receipt wrong. I don't know how to spell receipt, so I'm gonna Google it. And so it's EIPT. Let's see. I called mine IEPT. It's a problem not knowing how to spell, man. I tell you. In school, I sat at my desk thinking, I'll never need to know how to spell. This is stupid. But here we are now. Okay.
Look at you now.
Yeah. All right, let's try this again. I'm going to hit next customer. And then it gets removed from the list. And I got a text. With my barber is ready to serve me. That's pretty sweet. And no errors. So, yeah, we like that.
We love that.
Okay, and let's just refresh. And I have my message receipt. I don't know exactly what I can do with it. Like if I go to twilio.com/console, I wonder if I can see like a list of messages that I've sent. That might be handy.
That'd be cool.
Probably not super important right now though. Oh, remember I said I had $13? I started with $14 and now I'm at $13.89. So we've actually only gone through like 11 cents.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Let's see. Programmable SMS. Logs, maybe? Oh, recent messages. So check it out. This is like all of our message logs here. And if I look for my message ID, I can see here, and we even have a status. This is pretty crazy. My status is delivered, and we get like either received or delivered status, or probably failed if it's like doesn't work. But very cool. All right. Well, that's good. Why don't we make a commit and we can wrap up at this point. I think that's kind of mission accomplished for today, huh, Ken?
I would say so.
Yeah. So we
throw that in Terminal 4.
Terminal 4. Yeah, let's do it.
Terminal 4 at Pearson. Here we go.
Final boarding call. Gate G5. Okay, so yeah, we fucking killed it today, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked on that
Yeah,
progress.
this is huge. So, to recap for everybody, we started the stream today with like this ephemeral Redis data store where we were just storing a list of names. That's it. List of strings. Strings were the names that people would text us. Today we converted that over to a Postgres database where we were able to now store names, phone numbers, something about their status, and we even ended up being able to store like a receipt to show that like they received their confirmation text. Um, and then we wired up our front end to show both a waiting list and a served list, and then also, as Ken's commit message points out, we managed to send customers a message when we hit next customer, like when it is their turn to see their barber. So that's kind of the rundown of what we did. I'd say it was pretty successful. Um, yeah. Any closing thoughts, Ken?
No, I'm stoked on the progress, and I think next week or next session we get into that timing calculation.
Yeah, dude, that's gonna be like we're gonna have to put on our math hats for that one. It's gonna be
Yeah,
intense, but
we two guys trying to figure out
oh my
math
god,
for most of the stream,
forget about it.
but we're in like a good position to tackle that next time.
Yeah,
There might be something else we should tackle before then, but
no, I think that all makes sense, man. Um, I'm just looking now at to see if anybody is streaming. If we want to rate them, but that's it for us, guys. Yeah. So as Ken said, next time like we're gonna be getting into some pretty intense mathematical stuff. But luckily now, also, dude, like we have the ability to. Oops, let's go back. Um, we have the ability to add just like another column that says like we can keep track of like a timestamp of um, when that person was admitted to the served list from the waiting. Um, we can play around with like the kind of data that we're tracking here, rather than just saying like yes they were or weren't served. We can say like here's when they were served. So
mhm.
that might be pretty useful. We will see, but yeah, for now, that's it for us. We're gonna raid Coding Garden and pay CJ a visit. Everybody who tuned in and stuck around, thank you so much for watching, and everybody who followed, yeah, thanks so much, and catch us next time. I'm gonna start this raid. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, Ken, thanks a lot again, man, and we'll see you again pretty soon. Stay on Skype though, and we can chat about your interview afterwards. All right, peace out,
Good.
guys. See you later.
See ya.